Now, moving right along to our next session, it is entitled Teacher Wellbeing and Self-Care, Prioritizing Mental Health in Education. So first of all, we're going to welcome up Michael Wozniak, trainer, consultant and coach, AI and human performance at Optimistra. And then our panelists, we're going to welcome them up as well. Dr. Elana Glassenberg, educational consultant. Lisa Thorpe, Deputy Head Primary, Swiss Scientific International School of Dubai. And Karima McKenzie, Vice Principal and CEO, Jersey City Public Schools and Temples Are Sacred. Let's give them a round of applause as they make their way up onto the stage. And we'll get you a microphone in just a second, Michael. Do we have one at least?
Hello, hello. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Okay,
Hello.
go ahead.
I'm starting. Hello, can everyone hear me? You hear me? Yes? Okay. So we're going to start with our introductions. My name is Karima McKenzie, Vice Principal at Henry Snyder High School in Jersey City. I am also the founder of an organization called Temples Are Sacred. It's an organization founded through my own triumph over mental health and education.
I am Michael. I am Vice President of Tony Buzan International, which is the originator of mind mapping. I'm also the founder of Optimistra, which is a strategic company working for education, for militaries, for C-levels, and for startups in AI to help them develop strategic thinking with the use of tools based essentially on NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And we have worked extensively with scientists and with 14 experts like PhDs in neurosciences, in biology, psychologists, and psychoanalysts to make the approach more scientific.
Hi, I'm Ilana Glazenberg. I am South African living in Switzerland and currently working for a Swiss foundation that builds schools in former Soviet Union countries and in Africa. We currently have 35 schools, and most of our schools focus on inclusive education.
Hi, my name is Lisa Thorpe. I am a school leader here in Dubai, but my main focus is being a leader with a heart, somebody who really works from a place of compassion and respect and caring for everyone that I work with. Thank you.
You have a question?
So being able to work for a foundation that builds schools in different countries, I was able to compare teachers' mental health, for example, in countries like Ukraine, Lithuania, South Africa, and in comparison to countries like Switzerland and Finland. And I think one of the things that we have to really pay attention to when we talk about teachers' mental health is to focus on the teachers who go to work every day in a classroom with students where they're actually taking their lives into their own hands. And those might be teachers working in areas where there are gangs or in war-torn countries. So for some teachers, mental health means something different and not just burnout, parental pressure, and things like that. So we really need to think about those teachers and what they deal with on a daily basis.
The question we've been asked to look at is how does the well-being of educators differ to people in other professions? And I feel this is a really essential question to ask because well-being of all humans is essential. But when you're placed in front of a classroom of children of very different ages and you're the person that they have to go to for everything, you're the person who has to maintain your emotions at all times. You can't get angry or upset when they're angry and upset. You can't get frustrated if they're not listening to you. You always have to maintain the emotions, be the professional and support them in their learning. That's hard to do. How many people go to work every day and are faced in front of them with 25, 30 other people who need them, who are relying on them? So well-being for educators is different because it's definitely not a job of just your teaching. You're a counselor, you're a support worker, you're the mum, you're making sure that they have their food, that they're eating enough food, that if they're upset, they're going to the clinic, you're doing crisis management. You know, there are so many things that you're taking on as a role of a teacher. You wear many hats. And when you think of that as a leader, somebody who's working in leadership in education, you then have all of the parents and the staff members who you have to manage and support as well. Just with the classroom, you cannot treat every single student the same. You also can't treat every parent or every teacher the same. And it's about how you're managing the emotions, how you're managing the workload of everyone. And so well-being in education is such a multifaceted approach, and it's not just about having a jeans day on a Friday or making sure you're bringing in coffee vouchers and donuts once a week. It's far bigger than that. It's about the decisions that you're making that impact on every single day. It's about how you're planning the timetable that impacts the teachers' well-being and when they have a break and when they get to go to the bathroom or when they get to eat their lunch. There's so many things to take into account as a leader when you're looking at the well-being of your staff, and that then directly impacts the students. There's a lot of people who joke that teachers have the best part-time job in the world because they have so many holidays. We deserve those holidays because when those holidays come around, most people are sick for the first week because they're exhausted, because you're not just working a 9-to-5 job. Your brain doesn't turn off. When you go home and you have a child who you know has had a bad day and who could go home upset, or they're having issues because their parents are getting divorced or whatever it is, you're always thinking. Ask an educator, how many times have they dreamt about something about school? So many times. How many other people go to work every day and dream about their job or keeps them up at night? It's not the same. So our job, we don't turn off because it's an emotional job. It's not a clock in, clock out job. So the well-being of educators is and should be one of the most important things in education, because if the educators are not supported and not cared for, then how can they do the best for the students?
More than any other profession, teachers have an impact on people that are in front of them. Just think about one element that has been already talked about today: mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are neurons that activate in your brain exactly as they activate in mine with what I'm doing. So if I act stressfully here, I am literally inducing stress in your brain. I'm literally manipulating you into being stressed. That's what mirror neurons are, okay? The second part is one effect that is called the Pygmalion effect. Who of you already heard about that, Pygmalion? Okay, it's a psychological effect which makes that if you are the classroom, I am the teacher. If somebody tells me, okay, there are 3 students in this classroom and they tell me who they are, who are excellent, they have an incredible potential. The thing is that at the end of the year, even if those students were absolutely randomly chosen in the group, at the end of the year, they will be the best. Why? Not because they are the best, but because of me thinking that they are the best. So everything that's happening in my mind as a teacher is even sometimes more important than what's happening in the mind of the student, because I am responsible for teaching the student. It's my responsibility. So for teachers, it is more than essential to be able to manage their own internal states. And you know what the worst thing is that is that it's absolutely simple. In 2 minutes, I could show you a way to completely reduce this emotional bad feeling that you can have, you know, those butterflies in the stomach. It would take 2 minutes. If you wanted one moment, I could show you that so that you experience it. It's so easy, but the problem with easy stuff is that the easier it is, the less people do it. If I told you it's complicated, you need to go like, okay, 2 years in a college to study this or that, people would do it. But if I tell you in a few minutes, I can show you how to get rid of that and help your students and the children in front of you, almost nobody does it. And that's the tragic part in the human mind. We are very strange creatures in that universe.
This, to piggyback off of you, this is why it's extremely important to teach educators those strategies, right? Imagine being the leader who is suffering with her own mental illness. That was me. I had to unknowingly, right, battling my own stuff. We all carry our own individual stuff. But if we're not taught how to release it, if we're not taught how to manage stressors, then we end up being worse than our children are. So how do we do that? We have to create environments that are safe. Safe for educators to express, safe for educators to take mental health days, you know, safe for educators to be vocal about the stressors that they're dealing with, not even just in the school, but at home, right? Some of us have difficult lives in a home environment. Our children may be difficult, our marriages may be difficult, and we also bring that stuff to work. So as leaders, we have to create safety spaces. Now, when I went through I call it, most people define it as a mental breakdown, but I now call it a spiritual awakening because I awakened to my true self. So I think our roles as leaders is to help educators awaken to their true selves, pour into themselves, so that when they come to work, they're pouring from a full cup and not an empty one. And unfortunately, most of our educators are running on E. How do we get them to be full? And it's going to be like she alluded to, it has to be more than just cookies and holiday foods and things that we give them treats, but no. What workshops are we putting in place? What tools and strategies are we giving our educators? Wellness spaces, right? All of these things are necessary in order to create an environment where educators can be well.
Teacher retention is a worldwide problem. Recent research has shown that teachers feel twice as stressed as any other profession. And let's face it, all other professions are created by teachers. It's because teachers exist that other professions exist. So, and I think as Lisa said, teachers are called on to be counselors, to be mentors, coaches, advisors, sometimes to assume a parental role. I worked as a principal of a private boarding school in Switzerland, and I can't imagine anything else more stressful than being in a school where students do not go home and you are fully responsible. I would say Karima and I share something in common. That was absolutely extremely difficult time for me in my life. So the problems that exist for teachers are caused by stress, by burnout, depression. We go into classes every day where we're forced to leave whatever's going on in our lives at the door and focus on other children and their issues and parents and whatever's going on in their lives and not address our own mental health issues. And it's come to the point now where we have to acknowledge that teachers should be allowed to deal and prioritize with their own mental health. It's not just the pandemic that caused mental health issues. These difficult situations existed long before the pandemic, but it was exacerbated by that and by forcing teachers to adopt online learning and situations that they'd never been accustomed to before, and dealing with children who were having anxiety and panic attacks and difficult situations being at home with families who did not have the resources to manage online education. In Ukraine, we gave our teachers each a laptop so they could manage online learning, but they were in a family where there was one laptop for 5 individuals to share. So, of course, that created a lot of stress. But just putting teachers' health at the center is so important because that enables students to be successful. And if we don't encourage that and don't allow that, we're preventing our students from being the successful students they have the potential to be.
So you might ask, what are we going to do, or what can you do in this situation? I think this is a really important part of the conversation. We all know, because we're in this room, we're in education in some format. We know that the stresses of teachers is real. What can we do? There's many schools, there's many companies who look at different initiatives or programs. They bring in dance clubs or book clubs or whatever it is. But sometimes it's smaller than that. Sometimes it's just the daily interactions that you have is what makes a difference to people. It's about actually seeing people, seeing the staff members in front of you and being aware of their changes in them. Anybody who's worked in a school in the last 10 years knows that there's a big focus on child protection and safeguarding. And you have to go through training that you need to look for signs for a student who might be suffering some kind of abuse, that might be weight changes or restlessness, or they might be looking more tired or anything. The exact same thing has to happen with our staff. We need to be looking at our staff and saying, are they engaged? Are they looking, are they getting more agitated than normal in a certain situation? Are they missing deadlines? Are they calling in sick more often? Are they coming late in the morning? What is actually happening? Once we know our staff and we have relationships with them, we can pick up on early signs of stress and potential burnout before it even gets to the point of burnout. And then that's where the relationship is core. Yes, we can do lovely theme days, but it's actually really more important how we treat them day on day in the everyday interactions that we have, showing appreciation. If we don't have to have a meeting and keep them until 5 o'clock, send them home early. 10 minutes can make a big difference, especially with traffic in Dubai. Like, why are we keeping them here? Because somebody said we have to? Like, little things like that make people know that you care. And then that gives the opportunity for someone to share when they're not okay. 2 situations here where they've just shared that they were not in a very good place in their life. Were they able to share? I'm not sure. But I would hope that anyone who I work with does feel that they can share with me when they're having a rough time, share with me when they need to take a day off or they need to go home an hour early because they just can't get through to the day. And if it's not an environment where people feel they can share, then we are going to end up with more teacher burnout, more depression and other issues to do with well-being. And I think the number one thing for me is that it's really about what we do each and every day to create that environment where people feel safe, to be able to share, to be vulnerable, and that you're appreciating them, you're seeing them, and you actually hear them.
So the question is what to do. Now, I guess we all have a dental hygiene. We all brush every day, right? I hope so. Okay. Now, who of you in the room consider that you have a personal, emotional, daily hygiene? Just raise your hand. I thought so. Okay. And here is the problem. Because imagine that we would not have that dental hygiene. If only a few of us in the room would have it, it would be a catastrophe. So now I will make you experience something for 2 minutes, okay? I take 2 minutes. I want you to experience how you can have a very fast emotional hygiene routine for you, okay? Want that? Okay. So just think about one specific event or something that happened to you that if you think about it, it gives you butterflies in the stomach. You know, that bad feeling. Find something. Okay? You have one? Good. Okay. Now, it's an emotion, okay? Motion. It's something moving. How can it move if it's in the stomach? If you continue to feel it, it could move like this, like that, or like this, like that, or like this, like that, okay? So just make it tangible. How is it moving in your body, okay? Make a representation. Just be conscious about that move, the speed and how it moves, okay? And now, let's start playing. I will suggest you, just for a moment, to speed it up and to see what's happening if you speed it up. Speed it up a little bit, just to see what's happening. Okay, put it at the same speed. For whom was it same or worse? Really? Wow. For whom is it less? Okay, so I guess everybody perhaps have it. In general, the majority of people, it goes up. And the terrible thing about that is that it means that just by giving you an instruction like this, I have more power on your brain that you have on yours. And that's a problem. So now, let's go further. For those who did the experiment, now I'm wondering what's going to happen when you'll start to slow it down. You will slow it down and slower and slower and slower and really represent it, feel it, okay? Until it stops. And because we like to go even further, just now start to make it turn the other way around just at the right speed. And notice what's happening. Just one or two people, what's happening when you do that?
Feel calmer.
Uh-huh. But calmer, yeah? Anybody in the room? Okay. So, in at least 80 or 90% of cases, not only feeling will be much calmer, but sometimes the bad feeling starts even to feel pleasant, which is completely crazy when you think about it. And the thing is, it's just like brushing your teeth. The more you do it, the more efficient it becomes. And that's the principle with brushing your teeth. It's not brushing it once that will save your life. It's the regularity. It's doing this in a regular way, having an emotional hygiene. And this is such a simple thing. I'm teaching that in schools, in Switzerland, in France, in Romania, in many countries. And I even teach that, imagine, in Switzerland, to medical people from psychiatry. And sometimes they tell me that this 1 hour that we spend together with such small things, that they learn more than 1 year in medical school. Because it's something very personal. And once you master that, it's so easy to show it to a group of students, to a group of pupils. But you see, it's simple, so very few people will do it. And the problem today is this. What to do? I think it will require a personal responsibility. If we are waiting for schools and systems to say, okay, you need to do that, it will not happen. I'm sure it will not happen. But if individually teachers start to become more emotionally intelligent and to explain that to their students and to the pupils, I think this can change the world. And that's why it doesn't require huge miracles to happen. It's just a personal responsibility to take. And I think the solution is much simpler than what we think.
Simple, but it requires work, right? So when I think about how I was able to turn my own life around, that's how I would teach others to do the same. And while in the hospital, I authored this book, Temples Are Sacred and So Are You. It's a book that resonates deeply, teaching people 7 core steps on how to honor themselves on a daily basis. And the root of it starts with trauma and the things that we experience from our inner child life. These are the things that impact us as adults, and these are the things that are impacting our current students. So it's to start from there and implement other strategies, some to be meditation, daily affirmation, body movement, comprising of all of these different strategies on a consistent and daily basis, such that when teachers walk in, they have an environment where they know it's safe to talk about what it is that they need to talk about. I imagine a school where teachers can come in early and do yoga before the day starts. Or as a part of the morning announcements, there are affirmations in place. Or we have workshops built into professional development where teachers are taught strategies that they can do at home and before they come in, and when they get to the job, before the students come. These are all the things that help us honor ourselves on a consistent and daily basis. So what do? We create environments of safety, and we have it webbed into the school day. We create wellness rooms where teachers during their off periods can go into these rooms and simply meditate and just be, without the annoyance of others. And also create these wellness spaces in the classroom where students can now take breaks and take breathers. Just create an environment where it's safe for when you don't feel well, that you now have a space that you can go to start to feel well, that you can go and create a mental health space and facility with licensed practitioners on site. That's where the real work is at. People being available and not being shunned when you don't feel well. Mental health days being okay. Being able to leave early, like Lisa alluded to. Being able to say, I'm not well today, but you have tools and strategies in place when you don't feel well. Breath work, super important. Also included as one of my strategies. Breathing in and out. Breathing out your day. Again, starting the day with breath work, ending the day with breath work. Starting the day with affirmation, ending with affirmation. All of these things can be used to create that environment that teachers need in order to honor themselves and therefore honor the students that they serve.
What are school leaders doing to retain teachers? In one of the schools that I work in Lithuania, it's a big public school. The average age of the teaching faculty is 58. So my concern is what happens in 10 years' time? Why is this profession not attracting young people? A lot of the things that have been said here, I would echo. Creating a positive school climate, pairing fairly new teachers with a veteran teacher, having feeling that you have a buddy, a peer buddy, where feedback will not be taken negatively, but it will be constructive feedback and not something that you feel is negative. Feeling that you have an administration that supports you and you're not up against parents on your own without them having your back. And then quiet spaces to work in, places where teachers can meet before school in a gym and do meditation or yoga. I offered a school trip to 11th and 12th grade students. It was a yoga retreat, and the students benefited as much as the adults, and a lot of them continued afterwards because some of the students told me they learned ways to relax that were better than some of their unhealthier habits for doing that. So providing mindfulness workshops, really taking it seriously, not just baking cupcakes once a week for the faculty, but paying attention, recognizing teachers who go above and beyond, having notice boards. I always made a point of recognizing birthdays, any special celebrations, making teachers feel valued, respected, and appreciated, because none of us are in this profession for fame or glory. So a pat on the back, those award ceremonies this morning reminded me that sometimes that's what teachers need, a pat on the back.
We're getting the time's up signal, but I think it's very clear that everyone who's up here right now, we're saying the same thing. Teacher well-being does not need to be something that you spend an extortionate amount of money on. It's not about the programs that you bring into the school. It is about inner self, but it is also about the small daily practices that we can engage in with the staff that we work with, anyone we work with, in making sure that they feel seen, that they're heard, that they're properly listened to, and that they're appreciated. For me personally today, getting up on this stage and accepting the award, it took me 2 weeks to accept the invitation because I didn't think I was worthy of getting an award. Why do we as educators, and maybe not all educators, but why do I as an educator don't feel like I'm worthy enough? And how many of our teachers feel like that? Because the criticism comes more than the appreciation does. So it's really important to notice the small things, find the beauty in the day and share it with everyone. Shout out the amazing things that people are doing, because as educators, it really doesn't happen very often. That's why it was so hard for me to take the award today. And I think if we can learn anything from everyone up here, it's the small things that matter.
Yes. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
I really hope that we have a lot of time for this topic because, as we all know, it's not only in education, but I mean in the workplace.
Yes.
itself,
Mm-hmm.
there are many issues, not only on the side of the students, but also as in educators, or even in educators. As for the field, in nursing education, there is also disability,
Yes.
bullying, and abuse and assault. So that's another direction. Actually, it's really more of an appreciation with everything that was mentioned. And I believe that leadership is a factor from the narrative that you have been constantly saying within the panel discussion. But my question is for Karima.
Yes.
Because all the examples that you have given is really something that every ordinary human being is mindful and aware. You mentioned about breathwork, you mentioned about
Yes.
journaling, also
Yes.
another
Mm-hmm.
something that you can do. But would you recommend that leaders in education in general, in all levels, should require to do inner work?
Mm. So, I firmly believe that a lot may not agree with my statement. Self-love is the only love. Meaning, we are no good to anybody if we first don't pour into ourselves. So, we have to fill our cups first. You just have to. I had to learn the hard way. So you have to be proactive about your mental, physical, and spiritual health. What that proactivity looks like is Something as simple as my book, right? And navigating through these 7 steps and implementing one of these 7 steps once a day for at least 5 minutes a day if you can. Could minimize it to 2 minutes a day, but you literally have to be intentional about prioritizing your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Because if you don't, you're pouring from emptiness. And when you're pouring from emptiness, that's where resentment, bitterness, depression, all of these other things come into play because you are pouring from an empty cup. Exactly. That's what triggers you, right? The kids are triggering you. You don't realize you're triggered by the kids because you're not full within yourself. So when I go to work, I go in full so that the other stuff that they got going on doesn't affect me. But it took me months to get to that point. So be proactive about not getting to where I was. So that's my tip, is to really hone in on your self-love and self-care practices. You're not good without them. That's where resentment, bitterness, anger, as leaders, we have to set the example. And it took me months to figure it out. And that's why I'm on this podium now, because I understand what it takes. And I want to teach other people, whether it's educators, my colleagues, any workplace, or the students. I can go from the students all the way up because I've done the work. So you can't skip the work. And I need you to understand, you can't skip the work. You have to show up for yourself on a daily basis.
Thank you very much, and we wish you a great end of day. Thank you.
Come see
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.